We made a bunch. Dude said leave with at least 10. I think I've got 100.
Minimum.
Yeah, it's crazy.
I got to text some people too. I forgot to save some contacts. That's where the opportunity of bringing real sustainable business models and product comes into play, because that will hold up in terms of like a foundation and core.
So I'm here with Hassan Shaikh.
Yes, sir.
I pronounced it Shaikh, right?
Yes, sir. Yeah.
I talked to your father yesterday. Awesome dude.
Yeah, man.
I see where you get it from.
You've been taking care of us, man. You're a very kind person, and we appreciate you just showing love and building cool relationships.
Likewise. Well, that's what this is all about. We made a bunch. Dude said leave with at least 10. I think I've got 100.
Minimum.
Yeah, it's crazy.
I got to text some people too. I forgot to save some contacts. I definitely got to
Dude,
catch
you know
up.
what's crazy? So I just downloaded this Popple yesterday. It sounds crazy, but all these events I go to, and I've always like refused to get the virtual business card. And yesterday the dude's like, dude, what are you doing? I don't want your paper card. Okay, it's time.
Yeah, it's
so
time.
I ended up doing it. I got it.
Well, there you go. You already got it set up.
Yeah, had to do it.
The world's moving fast, man. We're moving digital.
I think that happened like 5 years ago. I'm a little bit late.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about yourself. How did you get into the NFT space?
Yeah, absolutely. So we've been building businesses for nearly the past decade now, and also been investing along that route as well. I remember my buddies telling me about Bitcoin in 2016 and 2017, and just going down the rabbit hole of decentralization, assets going digital, blockchain. And that was what, initially piqued our interest in terms of, where is the world going and what is going to happen over the next 5-10 years, right? And especially when you hear about things like CBDC, it's like, okay, things are coming. And so it just becomes, how can you best prepare for it, right? And so it's always been something that's been super attractive to us, just from like a young age and feeling like this is where things are going to move. And so when we got involved in NFTs in 2021, actually, we went to a software mastermind with Alex Becker. So Alex Becker was hosting a software mastermind because of Hyros, right? And he was just teaching people how to do it. And so we had a SaaS company at the time, which was actually SteadyStack. And so it was a Web 2 business, just your traditional software, SaaS, e-learning.
So SteadyStack has been around for a while.
Yes, exactly.
You just pivoted and went into Web 3.
100%. Actually, the way that we see NFTs being the most successful are actually as extensions of existing Web 2 businesses. Because the problem with all of crypto and NFTs as a whole is there's usually no product. There's nothing underneath the actual hood of this token or this NFT. It's all speculation based.
Some tokens have done pretty well without utility and without a use case. What would you think? So the top performing NFTs clearly have the community and the product and there's a lot more in the utility. What, in your opinion, sets apart the top performing NFTs from the least?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when you look at a bull market, for example, right, like where we just went through the easiest fiscal policy of all time, money was rotating left and right. And I mean, you saw a lot of things just go up ridiculous amounts, even though there was no actual product there. And so that's why you see so many cryptos and NFTs. They're down not 80%, not 90%, but 99%. And so when you look at that, it's like, okay, sure, you're going to have a Shopify that goes down 90%, and that can make sense. But if something's going down 99.9% and going to zero, you knew that there was something inherently wrong with the foundation of that project. And so that's where the opportunity of bringing real sustainable business models and product comes into play, because that will hold up in terms of like a foundation and core for your digital currency, token, whatever the case may be. Right.
That makes sense. So in many, the NFT serves many purposes. One of them is definitely the marketing front. Also an investment vehicle for raising capital. Sometimes dilutive, sometimes not. So it's really interesting to see like this shift, this paradigm shift in finance and in business in general. We've actually toyed at Contractor Plus. We've toyed with the idea of shipping like a unique NFT that unlocks after certain actions or a certain amount of time. We could use it to improve our retention cohort. We could use it to improve customer loyalty, brand advocacy, potentially even as a way for our audience to gain something more than just some picture.
Absolutely. Absolutely. No, I think that's what it's all about, right? Is, you know, a lot of people, they misunderstand NFTs because of things like, you know, Bored Ape Yacht Club, or they just see a bunch of animal pictures, and that's what they think it is.
Bored Ape, you could go on like, you join the yacht club, right?
Exactly, but people took that idea, and then you just see a million Me Too copycats where they're not doing that utility, but they have a shark club, they have a gorilla club, right?
It's just a spin-off.
Exactly.
It's not original.
Exactly, and there's nothing actually under the hood of that project. And so when you use these, you know, I just see NFTs as the inflection of assets going digital, of products going digital. That's all it is.
Right.
And so when you have an existing operation, an existing business, and you can add NFTs almost as like a, you know, VIP pass to your ecosystem, that's when things get extremely, you know, interesting. Like you said, it can increase retention, it can build deeper communities, and it's just another way for you to actually extend your business.
I think we see a prime example of that right here at Tykes. The last event was half of this size. And after the NFT launch, now we look at this room, it's clear full. There's over 1,000 people here.
Yeah, and
That's
I mean,
pretty impressive.
It is very impressive, and I think what lends into that is kind of what you were saying in how things are changing in finance. And you know, if somebody can buy a product that can go up in value, they almost become that product's biggest evangelist because they own the product. So why would they not want it to succeed? Why would they not push it forward and show up in another manner? And it's not
like traditional ownership where it's just some signature on like a convertible note or like a common stock grant or something. You actually have something, you know, some compelling visual element that you can actually put in your wallet and show people, and hopefully it has some kind of storyline behind it, like you were showing me with what's the name of the upcoming launch?
Well, we can't talk too much about that yet, but we currently do have the SteadyStack Titans.
I got to see it. It looks pretty cool.
You did get to see it. You got some sneak peeks, some really, really cool things coming up. And yeah, I mean, I think that's what it's all about is the fact that people are able to be a part of something that's a lot more engaging, gamified, and exciting for them, right? And so even when people think like holistically, okay, if I can buy this NFT for $1,000, $2,000, whatever the case may be, and I can reap the value from it, and then potentially maybe sell it to somebody else who, you know, when I've used the mastermind, traditionally, if you pay $25K like that mastermind we paid to Alex Becker, pay $25K, when it's over, it's over. He took the money, it's gone, right? Whereas with the NFT, if it was an NFT, I could then maybe potentially go and flip that to somebody else after I was done with it.
Make more money,
make more money, or get some of my money back, right? And so it creates a really, really cool dynamic in terms of the product cycle.
So Alex Becker didn't have any NFT involved.
Well, not at that stage. Not at that stage. Yeah.
Sure, now everybody's doing it.
Yeah, it was early 2021 at that stage.
So how would you take, just to break it down in layman terms, how would you take an existing Web 2 tech company who's doing well, has customers, has traction, but may have an audience that doesn't really know about non-fungible tokens? So how would you take that audience and that product and integrate a Web 3 approach, NFTs, and do it really well and just hit a grand slam where because part of it has to be education, right? Like you have to educate that audience what this is and how it works, and without adding so much confusion that they just avoid it. And then the other part is it has to be successful. So how would you do that successfully?
It's a really good question. I think it's twofold. One, if you have an existing Web 2 audience who's not familiar with crypto and NFTs, you have to make the on-ramp process extremely simple. And I do think Tykes is a perfect example of that because
they've done really well.
You buy their NFT on the pre-sale at least via credit card, which is very interesting because you never see that in the NFT space. Actually, when they were first launching, people were very surprised. They were like, is this project going to, perform extremely well, being that they minted via credit card, right? They launched via credit card, and they still were, which was a really, really cool concept to see them play it out first. And that's the benefit of not being a first mover. You get to see people doing it first, and you get to emulate and learn from them. So I think that's the first piece, is making the on-ramp extremely smooth and simple for your existing audience.
So don't require them to buy cryptocurrency in order to get the token.
Yeah, so what Ryan did was he charged via credit card, and then he basically made everybody proxy wallets or had them submit a wallet where they would just drop the NFT into their wallet. And so that made it a whole lot simpler because they didn't need to go on Coinbase, wait 5 days for the Ethereum to settle, and then move it to a MetaMask, which is a decentralized wallet, and then buy on OpenSea.
So you essentially eliminated like 5 or 6 steps.
Yes.
And so people, who don't have any experience with crypto or NFTs, they don't have to go learn all this stuff to get their feet wet.
Absolutely. And I think the other piece to that, right, the other side, is you need to make sure that you don't neglect the Web3 world just because you have a Web2 audience. I urge people to make sure that you play the Web3 game a little bit, right? Everything in Web3 happens on Twitter and on Discord. And so if you don't have a Twitter presence, right? If you don't have Discord and community managers who are actively building that community, you lose out on massive opportunity because now you're missing an entire side of the market, an entire audience who's actually, involved on NFTs on a day-to-day basis. And those are the traders, the people who are going to push the price of the asset up, right? And so you need to make sure that you have your Twitter marketing dialed in, you're very active on Twitter, you're reaching the right networks, and you play that Web3 game as well. So it's doing both.
Your most loyal brand advocates, your most active community members, they're going to be your first movers on your NFT. But also tapping into the existing Web3 world, there's people outside of your ecosystem that are going to have an interest as well.
Exactly, because NFT space is extremely new. And so, it's almost a problem of the space to a degree where liquidity just moves from project to project to project to project because people just continue to flip, right? And the reason why they're flipping is because there's not enough incentive to hold. And so I think that's where the opportunity for Web2 businesses comes in because they're really good at retaining their customers. If you've been around for a while, you know how to continually sell to your customers, continually provide them value, move them up a certain value ladder, right? And so if you can merge that with the NFT space, you now have that golden goose, right?
Sure. So what are some of your opinions? What would you do if you wanted to get people to hold longer, get people to stake it?
If I wanted people to hold longer, I would essentially
This vacation's a pretty good idea, right?
Yeah, it's a pretty good idea.
Buy more and hold it longer.
Exactly. You just want to make sure that whatever you're doing at a fundamental level, you're providing more value than what you're charging and what your floor price is going to reach.
Right.
And there's a lot of ways that you can facilitate that. And that comes from managing your community, empowering your community. Like, for example, there's only so much that you can do. So sure, you could charge, let's say, $1,000 for your NFT and provide $5,000 of value, and you might see that the price of the NFT, should you have good marketing. If you don't have marketing, you're not going to get any volume. But should you have good marketing, you're going to push that value to meet the actual market value, right? So if it's $5,000 worth of value, launch for $1,000, you're going to see it slowly creep up if the marketing is there. But the thing is if you don't have a plan to basically create infinite growth potential for your product, you're setting a cap on yourself. And so that's where the community really comes into play and allowing them to really run with ideas where they can add extra value that continues to push the price of the product up.
That makes a lot of sense. So SteadyStack specializes in partnering with Web2 and Web3 businesses.
Yep.
And handling the entire, it's like a hands-off you basically are the NFT partner. So you come in, you help create the token, you help create the storyline behind it, you help create the utility, you advise on how to successfully execute your NFT.
Absolutely. I mean, that's kind of the way that we see SteadyStack is we almost see it as like the Tesla of NFTs, where there's like 7 different business models underneath our brand, right? There's multiple different arms. And so one arm, like you just discussed, is almost like a launch pad where we can bring on potential projects and people who want to make that jump to Web3 and launch their entire project and give them our process, give them our connections, our developers, our artists, our creative directors, brand directors, whatever the case may be.
Community managers.
Exactly, community managers, and install that process so that people can replicate what we've done.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So that's one piece of what we're doing. And why is that so important? It's because, a lot of people, they have this idea that when they buy this digital pass, they're getting almost like an indefinite amount of time with that pass, right? And so you need to make sure that when you are launching this NFT, it's not just a one-time type sales model where you make money once. You need to find ways to leverage the brand to have multiple revenue streams beyond just the initial sale and beyond just the royalties.
Well, I think Steve Jobs did it really well with Apple. I think a lot of Apple's success was attributed to his ability to see 5 iterations ahead.
Yep.
So before they released the phase 1 of the iPod, they had the iPod 5 prototype.
Yep.
So now, the way they had it prototyped and the product that actually hit the retail shelves are 2 different things, but being able to see that far into the future is really how you protect the brand and the vision for that, and have that, instill that longevity into what you're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's a very, very good point. And again, I think the 2 biggest problems in all of NFTs and crypto as a whole right now are, number one, utility, meaning that too many people think that they can just put out a piece of art or say that they're launching this game, right? But there's no actual use case because the game's probably going to suck and there's not going to be any users, and it's really just built off of like a Ponzi-nomic type of deal, right?
I've seen a bunch of those.
Yeah.
There's a bunch.
Yeah, I mean, Logan Paul, he's getting a ton of crap from CoffeeZilla for doing like $15 million and saying they're going to launch a game, and they didn't build anything, right? And so...
Well, he said he's going to make it right.
Yeah,
He said, I'm going to return their money. I don't know that he said that, but he said, I'm going to make it right in some way.
Yeah.
I think he has the means to make it right, so
absolutely.
He better make it right if he doesn't want the FBI making it right for him.
Yeah, exactly. So. And so that's the hope, right? And so that's the first thing is there's not enough utility. And so when there's no utility, when a recession or downturn comes, it goes to zero because people are no longer relying on speculation. The only time you're going to let speculation get the best of you is during a euphoric liquidity, just left and right, like money's being printed, right? Where things don't make sense. Things are highly irrational, and it really is just market inefficiency showing that all these things are going up. So number one is utility, and then the second is cash flow. Not enough projects have figured out how are they going to build business models under their projects because royalties are not enough. When you launch an NFT, you do make a percentage of what the trading volume is. So when somebody sells the NFT, you might make 5% or 10% of each individual trade.
Right.
But it's not enough because in a bear market, there's no liquidity. There's not a lot of trading. And so if you're relying on that trading volume, making $1,000 a month, of course you're going to lay off all your staff. You need ways to actually provide services and value to be able to have multiple revenue streams and keep a business sustainable. And that's why I think there's a massive level of opportunity for Web2 businesses because the people in Web3, they don't know that side of things.
They're going straight for the Web3, but the Web2 already has that infrastructure. They already have that customer base. They already have that product or service and community.
Exactly.
So merging those 2 things together is where the greatest opportunity lies.
Yeah, no, that was very, very well put together because I almost say like the plague of Web3 is that they get too stuck in Web3. So they're thinking like 10, 20 years out. And so when you think that far out, sure, I mean, it might happen one day, but what's going to give you the runway to get there?
Right.
Like, you're just going to raise money until infinity, right? You're just going to keep on raising money from all these investors.
Some people do.
Yeah, and
I don't know. I see some people doing it, and I'm like, how?
Well, the reason why is because a lot of the Web3 space, I mean, you got to think about it. These are very tech-inclined people.
Right.
And so they come from where? Silicon Valley, right? They come from Facebook. They come from Google. And so the Silicon Valley model is always raise a ton of money, build the product, get all the users, and then we'll make money later, right? And because of that methodology, that's why we see so many businesses fail because they're not set up.
It's a very high risk, potentially high reward tech play, but when it does work, it works really well.
Yeah.
But what percentage of them actually make it?
Yeah, it's far less than 1%.
Yeah, it's bad. So taking Contractor Plus, we're a mobile app for contractors. In your opinion, just right off the top of your head, what would you do if Contractor Plus was yours and you wanted to you wanted to implement an NFT and do it successfully? How would you go about that?
Yeah, so who's your avatar and what service or value do you provide?
Right now, the bulk of them are 30s to 50s. Mm-hmm. That's the first problem.
Yeah.
So the guys that don't invest in crypto typically, we have a percentage that do. Home remodeling companies, mostly male. We've got like 20-some% female.
Cool.
So the percentage of our audience that, we haven't surveyed them to know, but I don't know how many of them already have NFTs. I don't know how many are even hip to crypto.
Yep.
We know there's some.
And so what do you think the main, I would say, trades are of the individuals who, you provide services and value to, right? Like, are they entrepreneurs? Are they in real estate? Are they contractors, right? This may be a dumb question, but who are they? Are they electricians? Are they, who are they?
So
what do they do?
Our beachhead is home remodeling contractors and handyman companies, because our middle of funnel conversion rate is much higher in those two categories than the other 20 plus categories of businesses that use our platforms. But we do have a very broad spectrum of customers that are using us. We have landscapers, we have property managers, we have general contractors, home builders, handyman companies, HVAC, plumbing. We're all over the place. We recognize that to do this successfully, we have to narrow our focus on a specific audience and capture that audience. So that's why we drilled down to handyman and home remodeling. But the real opportunity at large here, our long-term play here, is to not be so narrow focused, to capture those audiences and then work our way out. We have builders coming to us right now, people that are using Procore and Buildertrend and Co-Construct, and they're fed up. They're like, dude, I've had enough. We're paying way too much for our software. It doesn't work right. It's so clunky, and it looks like it was made in 1999. Like, why haven't they improved the user interface? The user experience sucks. There's no onboarding. It's all manual. You just schedule one-on-ones, and they help you get there's nothing at all. So they're charging.
It seems like you guys, filled a really big gap in the market then.
When we launched, we weren't planning on going after home builders. And now we're building out. That's what made us realize our network effects is going to be bridging those two ends of the market together. So the builders and the GCs and the master developers, they're the ones that bring us our bread and butter. We make it free for them to add subcontractors. So they bring us the SMBs, the guys that are managing things within using our software to manage their business.
So that's what they're doing. They're using the software to manage their businesses? Primarily,
yeah. We also do lead gen. We also do web development. We partner with webdev.com for Contractor Plus websites. We're also PayFac. So we do everything. We also have integrations with Next Insurance and pretty much everything. Our goal, for roofers, for example, we're integrating with Roofer and Eagle View and Pitch Gauge. And in order to do anything successfully, I think in order to capture this market, we really have to consolidate two existing markets, and we have to improve and streamline the way they communicate and send work to one another and hire. Staffing is a huge opportunity, especially for contractors. I hear it more than anything. They can't find quality workers and they can't retain them. Now, they don't want to hear this, but the real reason is because, one, they don't know where to look. Two, they're not running their business like a real business. And three, they're not willing to pay what they're going to have to pay to attract the right talent and, more importantly, retain that talent. So a lot of what we're doing requires education as well. Because in order for us to take a contractor who's doing $400,000 a year and turn it into a $5 million business, we have to give them those SOPs. We have to give them we have to give them the system, the processes, and show them how to get the people.
No, that makes a lot of sense. And so where I would start, right, and you can just use successful examples of projects like SteadyStack or projects like Tykes, right, and look at what their process was and just emulate it for your specific niche. So the way that I would look at it is, right, like SteadyStack was appealing to traders, investors, entrepreneurs in Web 2 before we were in NFT. That was what our demographic was. And what were we providing? We were providing education, access to softwares, a community, live trading, analysis, tools, resources, all of that, right? It's same thing with Tykes, right? They have a group of real estate individuals, wholesale, flipping, whatever, right? And so what you're doing at the very core, and what's so special about Web3, going back to what we were talking about how since these people own this product that almost functions like an asset, even though it's a product, it functions like an asset moving up and down in price, these guys are going to be your biggest evangelists, right? And so the core focus has to be about the community, right? And what is that core community? Who are we, right? That's why we call ourselves the Investor Illuminati. It makes it very clear for everybody.
I didn't know you called yourself that.
Yeah. But that's what we say. We say we're the ultimate all-in-one investor mastermind.
SteadyStack, the Investor Illuminati.
Yes, the Investor Illuminati or Investor Mastermind. Yeah. And so that's like the core is that community, right? And just attracting from a messaging standpoint all those types of people. And then number 2 is facilitating their growth. So doing things like giving them education, giving them paths towards, having an upwards track in whatever field that you're providing for, right? Just outlining what the vision is for them and giving them the runway and facilitating the ability for them to syndicate and push this vision forward together.
The NFT is just the key that unlocks the door to all of that potential.
Exactly.
It's pretty simple.
Yeah. And I mean, the best part is that when you do go over to the NFT side of things, you've now essentially transitioned yourself to be almost like a tech company, because you are going to be doing a lot of things in terms of developing on the blockchain, smart contracts, all that type of stuff. Like, you are somebody, like, there's only 30,000 NFT collections with over 100 ETH in trading volume, right? And so when you are one of those 30,000 people, you've now, like, literally, you're one of 30,000 tech companies who's building the future of blockchain, right? And that's a big deal. And so
it's
now,
still so young. It's still so early.
Exactly. And so now you have the added benefit of being able to do things like have valuations and raise money in ways that you typically wouldn't be able to if you were just a strict software or service business. Because what really balloons those valuations is being able to have something that's so speculative and growth-based, like an emerging market or an immature market.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
It's pretty wild. I've seen a lot of people raise a lot of money.
Yeah. Doodles. Yeah, Doodles just raised like $50 million at a $500 million valuation.
Boom.
Yeah, something along those lines, and
it's crazy.
The opportunity is there. The opportunity is absolutely there.
Yeah, we're looking for it. We've been talking about it back and forth for a long time now, and we always come to the conclusion it's like, I don't think our audience is ready for it. I think the reality there, though, it isn't our audience that's not ready for it. Mm-hmm. Even if none of them own any NFTs or know anything about it, Ryan and Tykes is a perfect example of how to execute that without confusing things, without having to have them download MetaMask and get an OpenSea account right away and do all of this back and forth. So it can be done. It's not that. The real objective there is building that community before you launch the NFT. Make sure that community is thriving. Make sure that community is hungry. And have a grand slam offer that community is just dying for. And then when you roll that NFT out, it's going to be a hit. That's exactly it. And you do need to make sure that you have the rest of your bases covered, like really good art and a really good story arc, and again, like that vision, and just filling all those other pieces of the puzzle. But exactly what you just said is exactly how you want to do it. You want to foster that community for months before you actually launch. And it's kind of funny because, like you showed me earlier, like I could visualize with the animation. I could visualize. It's kind of like a more engaging comic. And comics all have a storyline. One of my favorite bands is Coheed and Cambria. And the reason is because all of their albums, all of their music, their lyrics are all based off of the comic books. And so there's like a lot, there's just more depth there. I mean, you can relate to it. And again, like something that we've seen particularly very recently, with Lensa.ai, is when they gave that tool, and Lensa, basically what you could do is you could upload pictures and then it would AI generate some pictures and art based on what you tell it. I'm doing that now with Midjourney. Yes. What? And so the thing is people, we've seen this for years. Like I remember a few years ago, I don't know if you know, like Jeff Seckinger, but he had like a cartoon version of his profile picture made, and he had that for the longest time. With AI? No, that was just like graphically designed, right? This was years and years ago. And there's so many people now who have like AI generated art or something that's not actually their own picture as their profile, because now you have a digital identity. It's like if you ever watch Ready Player One, you are now in this world that you don't technically need to identify as who you may be in the real world, right? And so now you have this whole digital persona and this identity, and that's also what you're giving to people, is you're giving them this
it's almost like you become like a lifestyle brand to an extent, because people identify so strongly with that picture that you've laid out for them, right? And so it's like with Tykes, it's like they're digital tycoons. They feel like they are the ones who are leading that revolution into the era where, and the intersection where real estate will merge with blockchain. It's like,
from the outside looking in, I don't see anyone else at this level doing anything like this with real estate.
Yeah, no, not at all. I mean, because the thing is it's very risky as well, and it's not easy to execute, right? And so people get nervous, but like you said, people are never ready for anything. It's up to you to go out and mature that market and for you to catch them up to speed and show them the value of it. If you do that and you can highlight that value, people are going to love it, right? And so that's what we're here to do. I mean, you want to trailblaze, you want to push forward, and you want to go as big as you can.
I love it. How do you feel about the concept of DAOs?
DAOs. Oh man. It's interesting. I'm not currently the biggest fan because I feel like, even with SteadyStack, for an example, we are very involved from a leadership perspective. I do believe that if we completely made it decentralized, it could actually hurt it, because just because everybody, thinks they want a certain thing doesn't mean that they've built massively successful businesses in the past. Like we've built a multi-8-figure business in the real world. We've built a lot of skills in leadership and speaking and culture building, community building, whatever the case may be. And so, sometimes you need a leader to steer the ship. And so when everything's completely decentralized, things can go downhill really, really fast. So I personally don't think we're ready for DAOs yet. I think we're just I believe that a degree of centralization can actually help, because if you have a good captain leading the ship, you're going to get to where you want to go.
In some cases, though, I look for, so there's like a concept that I drew up just to explain how they would function, and I called it around the block. It's synonymous. You've got, it's a play on words. You've got around the blockchain, but also there's like a taxi waiting for you around the block. So you take the Uber model or the Lyft model, and you build it on the blockchain. And in order to transact in that ecosystem, you have to purchase Drive coins. You pay your drivers in Drive coins. Now, hopefully you can purchase that with a credit card or whatever, so it's simple, it's easy. But now that you have the Drive coin, you can pay your drivers in Drive coin. The Drive coin, DC, whatever you want to call it, doubles as a token that can be used. It's no different than walking in an arcade, exchanging your fiat for arcade coins that are good for nothing except arcade games, and then using those coins to transact in that arcade. It's no different than exchanging your fiat for Drive coin and then using that Drive coin to transact to hire your drivers or whatever. Now the drivers, if there's a finite amount of Drive coin in circulation, like Bitcoin, and you never intend on creating more, or it's programmatically impossible to create more, then demand increases. When the supply stays fixed and the demand increases, what happens to the value? It goes up. So if the supply of Drive coin stays fixed and more people start using this versus Uber and paying their drivers in Drive coin, then the demand is raising, so then the value of the Drive coin increases. So now the drivers start making more money, but also Uber has thousands of employees. They dictate what drivers are allowed to charge and what they're allowed to. It's all controlled, and that's where that centralization comes in. And in some cases, it could be good for a product or a business, but in other cases, like in the case of Uber, if everything is pretty much automated, let the free market be free. Let the drivers charge what they want to charge. Now, if there's 20 drivers in a 5-mile radius, and some are way more expensive than others, and also there's peer reviews. So, like some guys, their car smells like pot, and the other are very clean and organized. You know what I mean? They're not swerving. They drive.
And I think this is a really good example where it's more of like genius of the and rather than tyranny of the or, because I think there's decentralized aspects that can play in very well, but I also think that you do need, again, like a really, really good captain,
some kind of governance.
That's going to steer the ship and make sure that certain catastrophic mistakes can't happen, right? And that's why like board of directors and things like that are so important.
Sure.
Because you have that experience that you can now leverage to make the right decisions.
Right. Yeah, a good board, a really good board is going to be broken into committees, and you're going to have reviews of financials, and they're there to hold the executives accountable.
Yes.
Everybody has to answer to someone, even the CEO.
Yep.
And accountability is a good thing. It needs baked into every level of the organization. So how does that look from a Web3 perspective? You ship an NFT. Who's the captain of the ship?
Well, that's the thing is you do, like, at the end of the day, the way I see NFTs is they are businesses. Like, for example, Bored Ape just brought in the CEO of Activision, or the ex-CEO, sorry, of Activision.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, because they want to build out this game and they really want to be a leader in the metaverse. So they brought in, the best in the world to kind of steer that ship. It's like that leadership is required a lot of times to take a company to the next level. Like, again, like you gave the example of Apple and Steve Jobs. I do believe that the strongest NFT projects in the world, 5-10 years from now, will be those innovative products and brands who had leaders like Steve Jobs steering that ship and taking it the distance. Because people feel like they know what's best for them, but a lot of times they don't. If they did, then everybody in the world would be in perfect health, perfect spirituality, perfect, money, financial situation, right? Like if people knew what was best for them, then that would be the world. But a lot of times they don't.
We don't know until we know.
Exactly. Like usually it's like 1% of people who are really, able to kind of steer the ship for the rest. I think that's why it's so important for the founders and the leadership to literally have their ear inside the community, listening to everything they say, so that you can pull all the good aspects.
Feedback loop.
Exactly. Yeah. Pull all the good aspects, but also have some sound decision-making practices that are based on data and, past experiences as well.
So who is your ideal client?
For SteadyStack?
Yeah.
So, I mean, we again, like we have multiple revenue streams, multiple different business models. But in terms of, our ideal client for our NFT, it's investors, traders, venture capitalists, entrepreneurs, and Web3 natives who are just extremely growth-minded and want to continually push the fold in terms of leveling up, creating wealth, and, giving back to the community. Like that's our core for the NFT. But if you're talking about, for example, our marketing launchpad arm, who's our ideal client? Well, somebody who's extremely open-minded, somebody who's an extremely good leader, somebody who has an extremely strong Web 2 presence, audience, clientele that they've done extremely well delivering for, and is open-minded to the degree where they will take the right steps necessary to make that transition to Web 3, right? And then we also have products and services, like, for example, like I was talking about utility and cash flow. Two things that we've actually created inside of SteadyStack is, one, the SteadyStack utility pack, and two, the SteadyStack cash flow solution.
I like that.
We actually
utility pack.
Yeah, so we actually sell yearly software and service subscriptions to other NFT projects who are struggling with retention and value delivery.
So you get them in shape. You get them performing properly.
Exactly, because if you can solve those problems, then it won't go to zero. You can retain the community, you retain the asset value, you retain everything that's being built, rather than letting it wither down to nothingness.
Dude, that's really innovative.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
You're brilliant, man.
I just
some big stuff.
I wouldn't take credit for it. I mean, you met my father.
Well, it's all on the team.
Yeah, it's the team. It's the moderators. It's the community. It's our father. It's
Apparently
my brother.
It is genetics.
I think it's just
Your
having
dad
a really
is awesome.
I mean, bro, even people like you, talking to people like you, meeting with people like you build a really, really good network of extremely successful people. And so if you're open-minded and you're willing to know that you don't know everything, then I think that's where the progress happens.
I don't know anything.
Yeah, I mean, the more I learn, the more I realize I don't know shit. Excuse my language.
That's crazy. So SteadyStack.io? SteadyStack.com?
So you can go to SteadyStackNFT.com, and you can also just go on OpenSea.com and search up SteadyStack Titans. That's where you'll buy the Access Pass. And so once you buy the Access Pass, all the links in terms of how to join the Discord and verify your product.
The Access Pass is an NFT.
Exactly.
That's the perfect.
Yeah. It's a digital Access Pass. That's all it is.
That's awesome, man. It's been great talking to you today.
Dude, it's been great talking to you the past couple days, man. It's been awesome. I'm really glad that
I'm glad I ended up coming, and Ryan's taken an interest in what we're doing, and so many connections and relationships here. It's just ridiculous. I never would have thought this would have happened.
Yeah,
it's an awesome thing.
Yeah, it's one of those, this relationship especially, one of those, just surprises that you get, like fruits of your labor for showing up and just outflowing, like we talked about earlier, right? Like you show up to this event, you put together these booths, and you never know what it's going to lead to, but it's these conversations and these relationships.
It always leads to something good.
Exactly. It makes it worth it.
Something, stepping outside of your comfort zone, like last night, Tyler asked me to make a toast. And
yeah.
I'm like, dude, I'm not the Toastmaster. Yeah. I do not want to do this. And he's like, no balls.
Yeah.
So I said, okay.
All right.
So I stood up and I hit the glass with a fork, and it broke the glass.
Oh my God.
So then the embarrassment from doing that, I'm like, I gave like a half-winded toast.
Yeah,
but everyone still clapped, so it was okay.
Yeah.
But
I mean, I honestly think a lot of things that you do in life, like, you're gonna fail. I mean, the master has failed more times than the beginner has tried. And so, I mean,
it's what you do with that failure.
Exactly.
Do you fail or do you fail forward?
It's the energy you fail with, right? It's the energy you fail with. And so it's good that you still did that toast, man.
Yeah, I did it. Didn't want to, but I did it.
Yeah, exactly. But the next time it'll be even better.
I looked over at Ryan and I saw his cheeks getting red. And
oh, man. That's funny, man. That's very funny. But it's been a pleasure, dude. This is an amazing conversation. I hope that this was valuable for, our listeners and whoever tuned in.
For sure.
Yeah, man.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Appreciate you, brother.